Live from our 7 Tasmania studios, your nightly news with Kim Miller begins now.
Good evening. First tonight, Tasmania's education industry has been dealt a massive blow, with the Australian Maritime College losing a federal government contract worth tens of millions of dollars. After almost 30 years, the college will no longer provide its Pacific Patrol Boats program training, now moved to Cairns.
Less than a year ago, the state government had a strong message for Queensland.
Queensland can bugger off, quite frankly.
The ship sailing on the Australian Maritime College's Pacific Patrol Boat program, which sees 150 students each year from Pacific Island nations undertake training in Tasmania. It's now heading to the Sunshine State, with the contract signed.
We were very excited about it.
The Premier, not so much.
That is very disappointing that AMC have lost out in the competitive process. Unfortunately, they haven't come out the other end with the result that we would want.
What made TAFE Queensland the successful candidate?
They showed they could do a great job. They were innovative in the way that they proposed it. And they've also proposed a hub and spoke approach that takes the training out into the Pacific.
Labor says the loss of the $36 million federally funded contract will hurt Tasmanians and the local economy.
It could be impacting on as many as 20 staff at that facility and of course students that won't be coming to Tasmania to undertake that training anymore, which is both an impact to the training institution but also to the northern economy.
Federal member for Bass, Bridget Archer, says she and others push for the program to stay on the island.
We advocated, all of the Tasmania's representatives I know advocated to keep that program here in Tasmania, but it is a competitive and independent process.
AMC Principal Michael Van Balen says the outcome is disappointing, but hosting the training in the north of the country, closer to the Pacific Islands, makes sense. It's hoped many of the staff involved in the program will be redeployed at AMC. Elizabeth O'Neill, 7 Tasmania News.
Hydro Tasmania has revealed plans to axe 5% of its workforce. To explain more, we're joined by reporter Sean McComish. Good evening, Sean. Now, just how many jobs are in the firing line?
Well, good evening, Kim. 50 jobs will be shed from the company over the next year. The government-owned business delivered the bad news fairly late in the day, just before 4 p.m, and the job losses themselves were buried at the bottom of a press release. Hydro says it needs to be more agile and focus on its core business of delivering electricity. It's also preparing to deliver a state government promise to double renewable energy by 2040. The company is promising to offer training to displaced workers, potentially transferring them to new roles. Energy Minister Guy Barnett mostly echoed the Hydro statement, adding only that, like all businesses, Hydro must adapt to changing markets. But Labor has called it a betrayal of a promise to create more jobs in renewables. The decision isn't expected to affect energy prices. Kim?
Well, the Riverside family is lucky to have escaped serious injury after a car crashed in their front yard this morning. The Toyota Corolla mounted the footpath, knocking over a tree and crashing through a brick wall around 9:30. The family was watching TV in the lounge room just metres away when they heard a loud sound. Police say the driver failed to negotiate a bend in the road. No one was injured. A motorcyclist has been taken to hospital with serious injuries following a crash at Newtown. Police were called to the scene at the busy intersection of Risdon Road and Swanston Street around 4 p.m. The male rider was taken to the Royal Hobart Hospital while investigations are continuing. The Nerve Centre of Tasmania Police has been brought into the modern age with a $2 million upgrade. Ultra-wide screens are now at the fingertips of emergency call takers, tackling one of the toughest jobs in the force.
For the past week, police have been blitzing Tassie roads. Today's target:
vehicle non-compliance, to make sure that the vehicles are actually roadworthy and should be on the road and going to get people to their destination.
From truck tyres to breathalyzers, some boots are searched, others slipped off and checked. Big operations like these are what the public knows and expects, but this is probably what you haven't seen before.
At times, this is a high-pressure environment.
$2 million has been spent improving the eyes and ears of police. Radio dispatch services is where emergency calls are answered by a team of highly trained call takers.
Our contemporary state-of-the-art system now is better from a work health and safety perspective. It's better from a functionality perspective.
Not to mention more space and CCTV streaming in from Hobart and Launceston.
As a package, it's a fantastic development, and I'm sure that it'll make every call coming in here more efficient.
The centre takes an average of 1,500 calls a day and has occupied the same space since 1990.
And a lot has changed since then.
It certainly wasn't Morse code, but it was pens and paper. Pens and paper on little cards back in those days.
Sean McComish, 7 Tasmania News.
A controversial new private hospital has been given the rubber stamp by the Hobart City Council. Existing buildings at the new town site will be torn down to make way for the 4-storey structure. The service will include a surgery, rehabilitation and allied health. Developer Nexus Hospitals says it has listened to local residents and council to deliver an acceptable outcome. A new service is being rolled out across Tasmania to help those in regional areas with heart disease access crucial rehabilitation programs. A CARDI Hub app allows doctors to work with patients virtually to deliver critical care.
This new app delivering a program to save lives, allowing those in remote areas to access cardiac rehabilitation.
It's a virtual program that uses an app and a clinical portal to help people access care more efficiently and more effectively from a home environment.
Heart disease is the leading cause of death in Tasmania, but often patients living with or recovering from a cardiac event in rural regions struggle to access crucial services.
Normally they would access a programme that's based in the hospital, but we've got resource limitations and we can only accept so many patients into that programme.
If the service isn't there, you can't access it.
Now this CARDI Hub program is helping doctors work with patients virtually to deliver the service.
So it gives them a reminder of the medications they need to take each day. It gives them tasks on what activities they should do and safe levels of returning to physical activity. It enables them to capture important symptoms and health data.
To be rolled out next year as part of a partnership with the Royal Flying Doctor Service, covering all corners of Tasmania.
For us, everything from Flinders Island down to the Tasman Peninsula and the Huon, including Bruny Islands.
It's a vehicle to deliver cardiac rehabilitation. It's not a service itself, it's a mechanism of delivering that range of interventions that we commonly use within cardiac rehabilitation.
Next site, 7 Tasmania News.
A Mowbray man has had a murder charge dropped but pleaded guilty to a lesser charge relating to the killing of Billy Ray Waters almost 2 years ago. Christopher Lee Brown pleaded guilty to being an accessory after the fact to the murder of Mr Waters by knowing William Adair Rothwell and Jacob Michael Brennan murdered and claiming that he assisted them in order to enable them to escape punishment for that crime. Brown had also pleaded guilty to unrelated charges of trafficking in a controlled substance and dealing firearms whilst not the holder of a firearm. He will face court again later this month. Meanwhile, a 70-year-old Cranbrook man has faced court, charged with a series of offences, including interfering with and unlawfully disposing of human remains. Police allege Olaf Vennick dragged the body of his dead partner onto a modified wheelbarrow before stripping her naked and burying her in a shallow, unmarked grave last year. Police have not alleged Mr Vennick had anything to do with her death. He did not enter a plea and will return to court on May 25. A feasibility study will be carried out into the viability of an eastern bypass in Launceston. Engineering consultancy Pitt & Sherry will conduct the study, which will consider the technical requirements of the build as well as cost estimates. $1.5 million of federal government money will be used to complete the study. It's expected to be finished by December. 27 returned Tasmanian soldiers, previously in unmarked graves, have been given the recognition they deserve. After unveiling a new round of headstones, the group behind the project is warning it needs secure funding to continue its work.
Returned soldiers given the final resting spots they deserve.
These are our forgotten heroes, and our motto is that we say they deserve to be remembered.
27 headstones were unveiled today as part of the Headstone project. The work honouring unmarked graves of veterans.
It's not fair that these men come back Some of them have spent 3 and 4 years on the Western Front and come back to nothing and be buried in an unmarked grave, no recognition, nothing.
This round of headstones finishes their work at Carvilla, where they've installed 80. Across the state, it's more than 400 over 10 years.
It came from a friend who said he had the name of 20 people at Canadian Bay, and they're all in unmarked graves, and what could we do about it?
The group says its future funding is uncertain, with a Commonwealth grant running out soon. It means their work installing these headstones may not be able to continue.
We're worried about what happens after that, because that funding is vital to the work that we do. Otherwise, we have to fundraise like we have previously.
While fundraising can sustain the work for a short period, they say the work they need to do requires more. Josh Duggan, 7 Tasmania News.
A new campaign has been launched in Tasmania to raise further awareness of domestic violence. Marching in support of the None a Week movement, 300 people took to Hobart streets calling for greater support. The protest, led by the Nourish Women's Choir. I can't keep quiet.
Today we're gathering to mourn the loss of 52 women in Australia who would be murdered because of family violence. And we are symbolised in the choir as the 52 with None a Week t-shirts, because enough is enough.
On average, 1 woman a week is killed by a current or former partner in Australia. The damage bill is still to be calculated after a blaze broke out at a University of Tasmania site early this morning. Fire crews were called to the Old Forestry Tasmania building on Melville Street around 4:30 a.m. It says the blaze was quickly extinguished, believed to have been caused by an electrical fault. A Burkes employee has today celebrated 40 years surrounded by beers. Paul Gray works in beer system sales now, but he's taken several roles during his time with the company, starting out as the pie boy at age 16.
I started here when I was 16, so to grow to be 56 now, and all the people you've grown up with and worked with, it's been great. They've shaped me as a person.
The special celebration even included a visit from one of his old publican customers.
You're very good to me. I'm sure you've been very good to your customers over time, and I just want to say congratulations.
For the record, Mr Gray says his favourite beer is the Burkes, in the Burkes range is St George. An inspired batting chase has seen Tasmania beat Victoria by 6 wickets in the Marsh One Day Cup. Sent into bat, the Vics got off to a good start with a 100-run second partnership between Sam Harper and Peter Hanscom, but they stumbled afterwards, being bowled out for only 222. Tasmania was assured in the chase, reaching the target with nearly 6 overs to spare. Jordan Silk top scored for the Tigers with a score of 69 not out. And support for female football in Tasmania is set to expand, with MyState announced as the new naming rights sponsor for the Women's Super League. Continuing its support this year, the company will also sponsor the state's referees across all levels of the game.
It will allow us to do more in and around that, more promotion, hopefully the live streaming of matches, being able to again add some tangible value to our competition and continue to grow it.
For myself as a female footballer here in Tasmania for many years, it's exciting to see that we now have lots of opportunities moving forward.
The women's competition has expanded to include teams from all major centres in Tasmania. The biggest night on the harness racing calendar is just days away. $75,000 plus silverware is up for grabs at Saturday's Tasmania Cup. Organisers say there has been a bump in crowds to harness racing since the pandemic.
It's been quite interesting. Our crowd numbers have been up since we've been allowed to have people back. I think we were the only show in town when we came back racing for a while. There was no other sport, so it actually helped for a while.
I think I've been in the last 3 years and been thereabouts, but haven't scored one yet, so I'll be trying my hardest this on the weekend to get one over the board.
The races kick off just before 6 p.m.
Good evening. 23 the top today at Cressy, Hobart 20, Launceston 22 degrees, Burnie 19 and Devonport 21. Lowest was 1 on Mount Wellington as overnight temperatures cooled a bit. Smithton and Bushy Park 22 today, Friendly Beaches and Grove 21, Low Head and Flinders Island 20, King Island 19, St Helens and Strawn 18. A strip of clear skies runs from the northwest to the southeast of the state, a little bit of low cloud around the rest of Tasmania. That cloud extends across Bass Strait and the Bight. Some storms brood over South Australia, low pressure troughs brought the rest of the cloud to the mainland. Tomorrow, a high will cross over the Tasman Sea as a cold front approaches Tasmania. Those lows continue over the Big Island. Winds northeast to northerly over the east, but variable winds between 5 and 15 knots for the remainder, and even lighter over the lakes. Hobart tomorrow expecting 22 and partly cloudy, Cygnet up to 23 degrees and 25 for New Norfolk. Launceston a high of 25 and partly cloudy, fine for Devonport and 22, 26 the top for Campbelltown. Burnie partly cloudy and 21, partly cloudy also for Strawn with 20 and Smithton 21 degrees. St Helens tomorrow looking for a top of 23, maybe a late shower moving in. Sunny further south, Swansea 23, Fingal 26 degrees. UV remains on 7 at it peaks during the afternoon. On Friday, a shower over the north and northeast, but mainly fine elsewhere with light winds. Looks like a bit of wet weather for us all on Saturday and a touch of snow in the southwest. And on Sunday, mostly sunny apart from a showery west coast. Partly cloudy in Perth tomorrow, sunny and 28 in Adelaide, 23 for Melbourne with sunny breaks. Not so for Canberra, Sydney and Brisbane, where showers are expected. Sunny still in Hobart, 18 degrees right now, 19 in Launceston, mostly sunny in Devonport and 18 degrees. And we welcome everybody that's here for the National Mountain Bike Championships at Maydena. Some changeable weather coming up for Maydena. Tomorrow 22, a nice warm 26 on Friday, 80% chance of rain on Saturday. And on Sunday we have a top of 14 degrees for the Mountain Bike Championship. So from 26 degrees to 14, I'll be checking the air pressure in the tyres, Kim.
True, it could be a wild ride and they will love it. Get yourself there on the weekend. And that's all your news for now. I'll be back later with updates. Thanks for joining us. Good night.